Hello everyone and welcome back to another session. If you are joining for the very first time, my name is Hannah Grace and welcome to the book club. For today's session, I have been wanting to have this discussion for a while now, talking about some of my favorite underrated young adult novels. Now, in the world of YA literature, we do have some fairly large names: Sarah J. Maas, Veronica Roth, Victoria Aveyard, Sabra Tahir, Cassandra Clare, Leigh Bardugo, Susan Dennard, Alex Bracken, and it's really hard to avoid reading books by these women because they're so well renowned, and rightly so, because I have read books by all of these women, and in my opinion, I think they were really well done pieces of literature. Now, of course, those were just some of the authors. There are plenty more who we can name off that have made considerable recognition for themselves. And as long as there's nothing sketchy going on, I think all of those people deserve to have recognition because it is really, really hard to write a book, and I have a lot of respect for all of these authors. So anytime I am listing books, I tend to have a little bit of a hard time narrowing down my list. So for today, I'm going to be talking about 3 books, so that way we can thoroughly discuss them instead of listing so many books and just shoving the video along. The 3 underrated books that I'm going to be talking about today are Painting Sky by Rita Branches, Blood Rose Rebellion by Rosalind Eves, and last but certainly not least, The Dragon's Price by Bethany Wiggins. So Painting Sky by Rita Branches is a book that I have mentioned before in a discussion video, and I am very picky with contemporary novels just because I had gone through such a huge phase in middle school, and I can say that this book is one of my all-time favorite contemporary novels. The story follows a young woman named Jane who wants nothing more than to be an art major and to live with her boyfriend. Jane had a rather nuclear family, which means it was pretty much perfect growing up. However, Jane is a people pleaser, and she is so caught up with that her artistic side is starting to slip. Jane turns to her roommate Keith, who also happens to be her boyfriend's older brother. As the relationship goes from ignoring each other to deep, passionate love with respect, they uncover deep, dark secrets. There are 2 things that I really loved about this book. The first thing is Jane's character development. So Jane is always trying to please everybody around her, and she ends up sacrificing her own happiness and what she wants in life. She is afraid to speak up, of fear of others judging her. Reading this book was like being slapped in the face. All throughout high school, I was Jane. I was always looking to please people, and in the process, I was neglecting a lot of self-care. Looking back, I think it was more important to take care of myself. But then Jane realizes that she can love whoever she wants, and she can live the life that she wants to live, and she doesn't have to give a damn of what anybody has to think of her. For me, it wasn't until I started college that I realized that I needed to take care of myself more and love myself more, and I think that no woman should ever feel guilty about sticking up for herself and the life that she wants to live. The second thing that I really loved about this book was that Keith and Jane both bring out the best in each other, and I am a firm believer in being with somebody that makes you a better human being, because as humans, there's always room for improvement and advancement in a positive way. Even though in the beginning, Keith and Jane banter back and forth with each other, they offer up constructive criticism in viewing each other's art. Keith pushes Jane to be a better artist, and he does so in a way by making her understand her own artwork. And it is uncovered throughout the book that Keith has always had a soft spot for Jane, and it's only with Jane does Keith feel like a human being and is able to find peace and happiness, 2 things he never thought that he would have. The second book that I want to talk about is Blood Rose Rebellion by Rosalind Eves. The story follows a young woman named Anna Arden who lives in historical England, and she belongs to a society where those who have magic rule over everything. However, Anna is unfortunately unable to cast any spells, and after an unfortunate incident, she is sent to live with her family in her native Hungary. There she discovers that the ruling class that she belongs to is not all what it seems, and she ends up falling in love with a very handsome Rumney named Gabor. Although this book is fantasy because of its use of magic, the historical detailing in this book makes it feel like the realest fantasy book I've ever read. So what I mean by that is whenever throughout the book they are talking about the social hierarchy systems, or when they're talking about like wars that have happened and countries disputing borders and what has gone on in the wars, it feels like you're actually reading like a historical text. Another thing that I really love about this book is the detailing of it. So the one scene that comes to mind in particular is when Anna first arrives in Hungary and she's taken to her like old family palace, and as she's kind of taking it in, it's absolutely beautiful. However, it's being described as like it's very kind of run down and it's being very neglected. Also, Rozanets is a professor, so like the academic she is, on the back of the book there is a sources page and there's also a glossary. And what I really like about the sources page is that oftentimes we hear authors talking about research that they've done for, you know, books that they're writing, and I think that it was so great for her to include that in her book, because you never know if a reader is interested at all in whatever the topic was throughout the book and wants to look it up. And I just think it just makes you so much more of a, you know, valid author, and I think that's just a really cool thing to do. So last but certainly not least is The Dragon's Price by Bethany Wiggins. I devoured this book. Now what I mean by that is I read it in 3 hours. Not kidding. It's also not that thick of a book, but this story was so like fast paced and it just flowed so well. So it follows a young woman and her name is Sorrow. She is a Faradorian princess, and in her future it was said that she was going to live a very kind of sad life. So her parents, the queen and her consort, named her Sorrow. And so there is this really ancient binding spell that protects her people and another people who are like very tribal. They have like, they own tribal lands and they are very good on horses. So this spell that protects both of these people states that a princess has to be offered up to the fire-breathing dragon, otherwise it will unleash itself on them and basically kill all of them, or she has to marry a prince from the tribal people. So instead of marrying one of the princes, she ends up going down into the fire-breathing dragon's cave in hopes of maybe slaying it and killing it herself and freeing everybody from this awful curse. However, what she didn't realize was that prince that she stood up happened to follow her down with her, and together they start this amazing journey of killing a fire-breathing dragon and discovering more about each other and understanding each other's past and what each other wants out of their lives. And it's such a great story because in the beginning, her and her love interest, they start off as two friends who just really want to try and survive, and then the relationship ends up blooming into this love for each other. And towards the very end of the book, we discover that a book is out there that can actually, you know, erase all of the curses, because there are multiple dragons. You know, if there's gonna be one fire-breathing dragon, there's gonna be plenty of other different kinds. So yes, this book was really awesome to read. I am on the hunt to look for the other ones, and I highly recommend this book to you guys, because if you love dragons, if you love princesses that say, screw you, I'm gonna go and live my own life, and if you also like hot guys who ride horses, yes, pick up this book. Now, I chose these 3 books because not only for the fact do I really love them, but like I mentioned before, I don't see a lot of fandom going around for these 3 books. I don't really see a lot of merch around for them, and I definitely think that these books deserve a heck of a lot more love and appreciation, because their stories were absolutely wonderful to read. They're entertaining, yet they're well written. And so if you're looking, you know, to new books to read, then check out these 3 because they are really awesome. So for today's discussion questions, what are some of your favorite, in your opinion, underrated books? Talk about them down in the comments below. And what do you like to see more of out of these fandoms that you love so much? Do you wish that there was more merch? Do you wish there was people more reading them? So talk about all of that down in the discussion in the comments below. Alrighty, so that is it for today's video, and I will see you all next week. Bye!